Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel and the fallout. So much to talk about from the last game week. That's what this show's all about. All the interesting talking points. We've got Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Arsenal, Watford, Palace, Wolves, Norwich and Brentford all ticked off in this video. So if you are new to the channel and you haven't subscribed before now, do it. Because we talk about all sorts of teams, not just those top 4, 5 or 6. So this is the channel for you if you want to get a bit more of a holistic approach to the Premier League. Let's dive straight into it and have a look at the table itself. We're going to kick off with the Burnley versus Chelsea game. I think it's pretty routine in what we thought would happen. We expected Chelsea to win this game. Their XG was 2.18, Burnley's 0.86, a 4-0 victory, and Chelsea looking nice and firm in that third spot. Of course, I think they would have wanted that title run, but it's not happened. And there were 3 interesting talking points when it comes to this game from a Chelsea perspective. Kai Havertz and the role that he's undertaken here. He's really... He's got the bit between his teeth, I think, in terms of enjoying that competition with Lukaku, smelling blood a little bit in terms of the opportunity that he's got there, and then taking that false 9 role and making it his own. Saul playing as a left-sided centre-back. Let me show you these screenshots of the average positions here. Because Saul has played on the left side of as a wide midfielder for Cholo Simeone at Atletico Madrid. But he's struggled, hasn't he, as a Chelsea player up until now. But it's interesting to see him playing in this position, and he played it really well. So you can see him here on that left-hand side, and we can talk about all 3 of those important parts for Chelsea here, which were Kai Havertz's role, Saul on that left-hand side, and Reece James being so important in terms of his return to the team. Because I think in terms of how Chelsea want to play, they want to play that 3 at the back. They want to have that width in terms of controlling possession, but then they want their wing-backs to be comfortable in terms of coming into more central areas of the pitch. So they want their 2 wing-backs to be confident here and then allow the 3 players in front of them, Pulisic, Mount, Kai Havertz in this instance, to be able to offer something there. Because what's interesting here, and we'll talk about Reece James as well within all of this, is the ability to be another playmaker, to stop the attacks of the opposition from those areas as well. And I think that's part of Trent's reason for being in that position for Liverpool as well. But also, you can play that pass and then come out to the wide, and that those wide areas aren't already sort of taken. And that's what Reece James does brilliantly. But Saul did really well for Chelsea as well in this game. Saul had 40 touches in the attacking third versus Burnley. The next most was Reece James with 28. And of course, he's not an out-and-out winger, but if you have a look at his heat map here, I think what's interesting here is 2 things. First of all, he's very clear in the positions that he wants to be, being an option, and that's the big word here. Yes, he's an option in that position, but he's also just always an option because as a technical midfielder, he's comfortable in those positions and he's got people inside him to pass to. So it's a good option, especially against teams where you're going to dominate the ball. Maybe would struggle defensively, I don't know, against those bigger sides that are going to offer a little bit more going the other way. But I think also it's interesting to see here that when we were looking at dribbles attempted, he didn't attempt a single dribble in this game. What that says to me is that he's going to be a facilitator in terms of almost being a playmaker. And I've spoken about this before. When you play as a left wing back, that is an option for these teams that dominate the ball so much, is the fact that you can play on that left hand side on, and look to play the ball into, the likes of Mount and Havertz, because you've also got 3 very mobile strikers there who can make those runs into the channels for you, especially Pulisic on that left-hand side. On the other side, what I really like with Reece James, and it just shows how much he can offer, the fact that he sort of just comes in after such a long injury. You don't even feel like he's been injured at all. Gets a beautiful goal, excellent assist for the team. Also created 4 shot-creating actions for Burnley. The thing that's so amazing about Reece James, and we've seen it more and more, it might be worth a video in its own right, is yes, they play those positions out of a normal right wing back. But secondly, playing here in these areas here, the areas that Trent likes to pick up, De Bruyne likes to pick up. And I think in particular, I've definitely noticed something here this season where putting crosses in from this area here, hang on a sec, from putting crosses in from this area here, in line with the penalty box on both sides, regardless, to have those crosses from that area. There's so many players that are capable of doing that these days. And I think you're seeing so many goals because it's so hard to defend because your centre-backs are often kind of in standing positions. Whereas when it's out wide, you're facing them and it's just that little bit easier. When you're square on, it's a lot harder for the defenders to do so. And I think that's why you see so many goals and so many crosses coming from those areas. But Reece James, happy to come in and play that defensive role for the team in more narrow areas. He's so useful. Kai Havertz is adapting to that false nine role really well. He's looked great in the Champions League, and of course we've seen him score big goals in big games, Club World Cup, Champions League final, but now he's bringing consistency against these lesser sides, with the greatest respect to Burnley, teams down the bottom of the league, which he should be going and dominating. And I think what's great about him in particular is just that lateral movement that he has. He's got the size of a striker, he's got the mobility of a striker, I guess, as well, but he's got the kind of brain and the technical ability of a playmaker. And the fact that he's a bit more wiry, I think, allows him to show that lateral movement, but also that mobility as well, to get on the ball and turn a lot of the time. And you can see that from his heat map, because yes, he's playing as that central striker and he's turning up all over the pitch here, but he's also happy to turn up in these wide areas. And I think here in particular really interests me because as a target man, he would be, in between the lines of the penalty box. You would expect him to do that more. But what this shows to me is shows that lateral movement. And in terms of being able to get on the ball and then allow players like Pulisic or Mount, who have that intelligence but also that pace and mobility as well, to make driving runs here, or Mount from a wider position to make those runs here as well. Kai Havertz, when he gets the ball and he's able to turn on the ball, you've got an extra midfielder here, and so many sort of hybrid players that I think it makes Chelsea a much better side than when Lukaku has the ball. He's going to lay the ball off and then probably get himself into the penalty box. The stat that kind of drills this home really is the fact that in terms of receiving progressive passes, no one received more than Kai Havertz, 11 against Burnley in this game. The next best was Saul on that left-hand side. And I think that's the big thing for me, is that it's the difference where, in particular here, I think if he's picking up the ball here, I think he's picking it up on that half-turn at times, and then he can see players and there are those runners, because you will have a lot of defenders here who would like an opposition striker to come and just stand by them. And you're not getting that. You're not getting that. For some teams, that you need that. And Burnley for a long time have had that, because at least it keeps the opposition honest when you've got, let's make the X a centre forward for the opposition. And I think you're seeing that, say, with Crystal Palace or Newcastle in particular. So there is benefit in that. But for teams like Chelsea and Man City, where the team is going to play in such a low block, you need that mobility. And that is what Kai Havertz is offering massively at the moment. And Lukaku, with the lack of confidence that he's got, he doesn't have that ability right now. And so Havertz has to be playing. He has to be starting. He has to be the main man, because he makes the other players much better. And he makes Chelsea a much scarier opposition at this moment in time. Newcastle United 2, Brighton 1. They're on an absolutely ridiculous run. They're second in the form table right now. I mean, I just would never have expected Newcastle to be able to be second in the form table, but they are doing it right now. And it just shows what a few things can do. First of all, a good manager being given that little bit of time. Yes, of course, that injection of cash for a couple of good quality Premier League players in Matt Target, Dan Burn, is very useful. But, if someone like Bruno Guimaraes hasn't been involved as of yet, Chris Wood, of course, coming in as well, who offers a lot more than just goals, as I've spoken about previously. I think what's interesting here, and it's one where a little element of pinch of salt, I think, with this one, Brighton will always look to dominate games, and so had much more of the possession. And you can see, in terms of that solidity, that we would have gone, Eddie Howe's he got that in him? Can he make this team a well-drilled side? We would have been careful about that, about suggesting that that's something that could happen. But they got their goals. They defended really well. It was a little bit smash and grab, but I think that's okay as well. And also, I think there's a talking point there with Brighton, who like to have the ball a lot of the time, but how much do they do with it? When we look at the average positions, you can see that with that, they're going to make the pitch as wide as they can, but were they able to get in behind this Newcastle side? They weren't able to do it much at all. And also, Newcastle just offering something in attack as well, I think is important here, because, 32% possession. they're defending for their lives a little bit as well. But it was 35% in the first half as well. But the chances that they're still creating to get 10 shots off, 4 on target, and importantly, if you look a bit further down, 3 big chances in this game, they are offering something. And that's what was missing so much earlier in the season. Big part of that has got to be Ryan Fraser, who's absolutely flying at the moment. And I'm going to show you a couple of heat maps here, because the big thing here, and I think this is why Chris Wood does deserve some credit that he won't get. Of course he won't get, because he's not really scoring the goals right now. But he allows the team to move up, and he also allows players like Ryan Fraser to gamble that little bit more, because they believe that he's going to win a lot of his aerial duels. So here is a screenshot of a heat map: Newcastle against Crystal Palace away from home, 23rd of October. This was when Graham Jones took a couple of games. I wanted to sort of highlight Steve Bruce era Ryan Fraser, but we were not able to do it because he didn't start a game for them. So once he'd gone, Graham Jones came in and he had an opportunity. You can see here, not involved at all, staying out wide at times, trying to get on the ball, but unable to do so at all. Now, let me show you these 2 screen shots. Now, we've got to be careful with this a little bit, because the Brentford game, of course, you've had a player sent off for a long part of that game, so that's going to help from the attacking point of view. But Fraser, 76 touches of the ball. His season average has been 37. So yes, it's against 10 men, but he's galvanised. He's got that confidence, and he's willing to sort of break past players a little bit more than he has done previously. So you can see it there. And then in this Newcastle-Brighton game, again, getting the ball, but also getting the ball more, demanding the ball higher up the pitch. He's also taken on sort of the mantle of Alan St-Maximin, who is such a loss for them. And 51 touches in that game against Brentford last week. Only had 22 touches in the middle third. He's gambling that little bit more, but the team's a bit freer, and the team is happy to go and find him as well. That's why stats have skyrocketed over the last few weeks, is that it's not only he's playing well, is the team is confident in giving him the ball. Unbelievable job by Eddie Howe. He seems to be able to get the best out of Ryan Fraser, and Newcastle look completely safe now for me. Cracking result for Aston Villa, 4-0 victory against Southampton. I don't think many people saw this one coming, but back-to-back wins for Gerrard for the first time during his tenure as Aston Villa manager against the Southampton side that were unbeaten in the last 7 games in all competitions. I think the big highlight here is that maybe Steven Gerrard has found the formula now. Little tweak on what he has done. A lot of the same personnel, that same back 4, and those fullbacks looking to bomb on a little bit. But just a little tweak in terms of Coutinho and utilising Watkins and Danny Ings in a way that felt quite balanced, actually, and allowed everyone to kind of be who they want to be. First of all, you have, to get Danny Ings and Watkins on the pitch is a great thing, but in particular Coutinho, who absolutely tore up the game. He was the primary creator for them and has become this primary creator. And him playing in that central position here, this 23... what it does is it allows Watkins all this space out wide, and you can utilise his mobility, but also allows you to play 2 up top as well, which is great. And also I think for Coutinho as well, he's one of those players that actually, he wants to be in crowded areas because he has that great awareness and that ability to sort of get out of those little pockets of space and then create things as well. I think it also allows for a more solid base to the team as well. I do have one reservation on this, which I'll get to in a second, but let's concentrate on Coutinho having a great game, and he has been a really good signing for them. I wasn't sure about it at all, but he's come in and he obviously does offer, a huge amount of talent to the team if you can make him the guy, and that's what they've done here. In the last 2 weeks, Villa have been on top when it comes to XG, which I think is a good underlying stat that shows they're not getting fortunate with these games as well. And like I say, Ollie Watkins also has that ability to create. Both of them created 5 shot creating actions. Danny Ings with that assist for Watkins as well shows the quality that he can offer, and also I think when you've got Watkins being willing to sort of come out wide, it allows Danny Ings to then just be that sort of bit more of a poacher, to maybe sort of curl around the outside and get involved and sort of work behind the 2 centre backs and find spaces that way. Coutinho, as I say, getting the ball there on the half turn, and then has 2 options beyond him as well, and maybe offers that little bit more security from these fullbacks who might not be bombing on as much, but you do create these spaces here out wide. And also people like McGinn, Ramsey have got so much energy, they can sort of deal with what happens when you lose the ball. The one reservation that I will have is the fact that against Southampton in particular, you're playing against a team that you can cut through, especially in narrow positions. And I do wonder, I would be intrigued to see in a game where the opposition play the way that Southampton do, their two centre-backs here, yes, they've got more possession of the ball, but you are creating a lot of space for the opposition to exploit, especially if you have two strikers. Now, that's a smart move from Gerrard, but it'll be interesting to see if he continues down this vein long term. Arsenal on an absolutely fantastic run at the moment. They do have some real star quality. This team is not getting any worse. They're only going to get better. The one thing that's going to be interesting by the start of next season is if they can deal with the pressure that will inevitably come, because I think they're just on the road to something quite exciting. The balance is there. The balance has been there for quite a while as well, and I think the team understands that. This game was interesting because Watford, in terms of XG, 1.37 to Arsenal's 0.88. But I don't think that truly tells the story. I think actually, let me just go to the momentum bar, because I think that does say a lot. Watford had a real go at it at the end of it all. But overall, Arsenal were very, very crisp. And I think in particular, there's elements here where, again, you've got to be careful going too hyperbolic for teams. But they did cut through them quite easily. And I think the reason for that, for me, was the fact that Watford played with that midfield too and struggled. They kind of got cut to ribbons a little bit, with Arsenal willing to go down the sides, never really playing through the middle, looking to play in those half spaces. And in particular, that attacking talent on that right-hand side. Odegaard, in the games I've watched recently of Arsenal, he is just... It just all runs through him. He's really awkward in this sort of right-hand area. You've got, obviously, the runners of Tierney, so they want that space there. So you kind of don't want him getting involved. But when he is able to get involved, you can see by Saka's average position here, the reason he's so high up is because Odegaard drops into that space, and then Saka can go beyond to try and get involved. And they linked up beautifully for that first goal. I think you probably see it from their heat maps as well. Let's have a quick look at it, because, that's Thomas Partey, who had a really good game. They really struggled. Let's talk about Thomas Partey, because they really struggled to stop him in a big way, Watford. And I think that was down to that too, and to that kind of concern of Tierney, Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka on both sides, that midfield too just seemed really, really stretched. And for Cleverley was struggling, to be honest. Partey had 93 touches in the match. Xhaka had only 54. He's actually getting a little bit further forward, but he was able to just run the game a little bit, Thomas Partey. But Odegaard, as I say, on that right-hand side, but in those pockets of space there as well, interchanging at times with Saka as well. So high up on the pitch here in terms of them getting the ball. So it showed that it is the Hodgson way, allowing them to sort of drop back and deal with it, which they tried to, and they gave it a go, but it was just... They had a bit too much for them. I thought Hassie Kamara had a really good game for Watford, actually. But you can see here as well, look, if you think Saka, and then let me show you again, Odegaard, so close to each other during the game and so high up the pitch. It's a really lovely little partnership. Often we focus on that left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, they've got something going for them as well. Hassie Kamara, I think, was one of the big positives for Watford in this game. I think he did really well in terms of his numbers. Recoveries 13, tackles 5, interceptions 7, defensive duels 1-4. Without him on the pitch, I think Saka and Odegaard did run right a little bit. They looked very crisp, but it would have been even uglier for Watford. Really disappointing result for Wolves. It looks like that top 4 ambition is kind of going to go to the wayside. And I think the thing that was highlighted in this game in particular was probably just the lack of depth in this side. Without Raul Jimenez up top, you're playing Daniel Podence up top. It's not really what you want to see. Semedo, unavailable for this game, was a big loss for them as well. And of course, Ait Nouri, who's been really impressive for them and was brought into my fantasy team, didn't play the game. So when you then bring in players like Mikal and Hervé, I think Johnny had to come on as well after about 25 minutes. Pedro Neto still coming back and not having that focal point in terms of Raul Jimenez. I think it just highlighted to me the lack of depth maybe that this Wolves side has. And when it gets to a point where you've kind of gone under the radar and people aren't really focusing on you or being careful about you, there are so many intangibles in football that they've been very clinical so far this season, haven't conceded many at all. But once you've got to go and win games, I think that tension starts to reveal itself. I've certainly seen it with QPR recently. But Palace were brilliant, really, really good. And I think when you see it here with the average positions, first of all, as I say, just nowhere really to go for them. And in terms of how they play with the wing-backs, 3 at the back, Raul Jimenez is so important. So important, sorry. So to not have that quality in those wide areas and then through the middle and have that little bit of physicality is a massive, massive loss for them. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, played slightly different here. And I think Vieira's kind of having a little bit of a go, which is nice to see. And you saw that in the role of Conor Gallagher. But they went for a 4-2-3-1 here more than a 4-3-3. Mateta offers something really nice. I think he's quite complete in terms of offering the physicality, being that backboard for those talented players in Zaha, Elise and Gallagher, but also being able to kind of run in behind as well. I thought he did really well, and of course got his goal as well. Wilf Zaha was great in this game as well. He had 3 key passes in the game, made 3 passes into the box, 4 progressive passes as well, 13 progressive carries for him as well. He was absolutely fantastic and is getting back to that top form. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, sometimes you need that striker to help create the space for the other players in the team. And I think Vieira deserves a lot of credit for what he's doing here at the moment. And I think it's an enjoyable one, isn't it? When you're not sure if it's going to work out, to then get to a point where, you're looking pretty safe now. And actually, I think it's worth highlighting here that there is this sort of mini league going on here. I would say, you could chuck Wolves in it. I think it would be a little bit cruel on them. But Southampton, Palace, Villa, Leicester, Brighton. That's like a little mini league. I'll be intrigued to see who finishes top of that mini league. Let me know in the comments below who you would say will be top of that mini league come the end of the season. And last but not least, Norwich 1, Brentford 3. I was at this game. Don't ask why. And it was one where Brentford fans will obviously be delighted. It was one of those perfect away games where you get a goal in the first half and then you get yourself a penalty and then, go on, have another penalty. A terrible, terrible decision by Gibson for the 3rd goal for Brentford. What I would say here is a couple of things. First of all, Norwich aren't terrible. And Norwich, they just lack quality. So I chatted to Jack Reeve, Talk Norwich City, great channel. Go check it out. Chatting to him before the game, and he was pretty, simple in what he was saying, really. It was the fact that the quality is not there. And when you look at the stats of this game and you look at the result of it, it does say 2 different things, and it really does paint a picture, in my opinion. Because 60% to 40%, Norwich were the better team in the first half. But Brentford, and I know there's a lot of pressure on someone like Christian Eriksen. I tell you what, he was an absolute joy to watch in this game. He got the ball. You've watched players in your time where you go, when he gets the ball, you start to look further up the pitch and go, okay, where is runners? Because this guy's got a wand and he could find those players. Eriksen did that. There was a moment in the game where he played a pass and I had to keep saying to myself, I didn't even see that. I didn't even see the pass he was trying to make. So the quality that he has got is huge. And that's what it comes down to with this, is if you need to have quality or you need to be effective. And when I say that, what I mean is with Brentford, maybe they haven't got the quality, but they are effective. They are effective. And what I mean by that is the fact that, okay, possession, haven't got that. They have got that bit of quality in Christian Eriksen, but they scored from a set piece and 2 penalties. Obviously, one of those penalties come from a set piece. And Norwich, they have the ball, but they're not really creating too much. One big chance in the game, they had 1 disallowed, which I thought was really unfair, and these moments are huge in it. But for me, it's the duels, 3 big chances, and they come from set pieces. The XG in the game, non-penalty XG, is 1 goal to Norwich, 0.58 to Brentford. But with penalties, with the set pieces, that's where it matters. And I think winning your duels is going to be important. Look a little bit further down there. 21 aerial duels, 1 to 14. Duels won in general, 55 to 46. This is a really big Brentford side. Even Pinnock, Ayer at playing right back. Enormous footballers. And ultimately, it's about getting results and creating chances, either through quality or through being effective. And that's what Brentford had in this game, more so than Norwich. Norwich, it was side to side. But ultimately, you've got Pukki up top, who works and has quality, but only in a team that's got quality to create those chances. I thought Gilmour had nice touches, but it's all ineffective stuff, really. Huge chance they had at the start of the game. They didn't take it. And again, that comes down to that quality and that ability to take those chances. Whereas Brentford, good away performance, solid, don't have that quality, but have effective players that will score goals and win games for them through their physicality, through their size. And that is why I think Brentford, especially with the run of games that they have now, and I think it's Burnley next up for them, I stick by the idea that I think they're smart enough and effective enough to stay up this season. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think about all the talking points that we discussed in this video. Loads of content coming up this weekend. Of course, you've got the Champions League games as well. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and make sure you hit the notification bell as well. If you want to be super kind, hit the like button as well because it will know it's going to give the video a chance. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.